In 2018, I finally decided to buy my own apartment in Hong Kong. It was a huge investment and a dream come true to have a place to call my own. Little did I know, this would turn into a nightmare centered around what turned out to be a columbarium niche. After nearly 10 years of living in Hong Kong and spending most of my income on exorbitant rent, I had managed to save up enough to consider buying a place. I started looking into the market and contacted a few real estate agents, hoping to find something affordable and decent. After months of searching and countless viewings, an agent finally showed me an apartment that seemed perfect. It had a good location, and the price was within my budget. The agent mentioned that the owner was eager to sell, hence the lower price. I thought I'd stumbled upon a rare opportunity and quickly signed the contract. In the days leading up to moving in, I was busy arranging for some minor renovations, buying furniture, and setting up utilities. Everything was going smoothly until the night I actually moved in. That night, after unpacking and getting settled, I went to bed early. It was quiet, with only the sound of the wind rustling the curtains. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I heard a faint noise, like whispers or soft footsteps. I figured I was just tired and hearing things, so I brushed it off. Over the next few days, the strange noises continued, always late at night. Sometimes it sounded like low murmurs, other times like gentle knocking. I tried to find the source but couldn't pinpoint where it was coming from. Every time I turned on the lights to investigate, the noise would stop. It was unsettling, to say the least. I decided to invite some friends over for a housewarming party, hoping that a bit of liveliness would chase away my unease. We had a great time, laughing and chatting until late. But once everyone left and the house grew quiet again, I felt that eerie silence creep back in. As I sat on the couch, lost in thought, there was a sudden, urgent knock at the door. I rushed to open it, but no one was there. Feeling more uneasy, I decided to thoroughly check every corner of the apartment again, but I found nothing. Puzzled and a bit scared, I wondered if there was something about the apartment's history that I didn't know. The next day, I called the agent to ask for more information. At first, the agent seemed reluctant, but after pressing him, he finally revealed that the previous owner was an elderly man who had died alone in the apartment. His body went unclaimed, and the government eventually buried him in a nearby cemetery. Hearing this gave me chills, but the agent assured me that such cases weren't uncommon in Hong Kong and that I shouldn't worry too much. Despite his reassurances, I decided to speak with some of the neighbors to gather more details. They told me that after the old man passed away, the apartment had remained vacant for a while because people were hesitant to buy it. I was the first person willing to take it on. As I dug deeper, I learned something even more disturbing. The old man's ashes hadn't been properly taken care of. They were hidden somewhere in the apartment. That revelation shocked me, but it also explained the strange noises I'd been hearing. Determined to solve this, I contacted a feng shui master to see if he could help. He came over, did a thorough inspection, and confirmed that there was a lingering presence in the apartment. He performed a cleansing ritual, placing talismans in various corners and burning incense to appease the spirit. The feng shui master explained that the old man's soul was restless because he had died alone and his remains weren't properly honored. The only way to bring peace was to find his ashes and give them a proper resting place. Taking his advice, I started searching for the ashes. After a thorough search, I found a dusty old wooden box tucked away in a hidden corner. Inside were the old man's ashes. I took them to a nearby temple, where I asked the monks to perform a proper funeral rite and arranged for a respectful burial. From that day on, the eerie noises stopped, and the apartment finally felt peaceful. Although the experience was terrifying, I could finally live there without fear. This whole ordeal taught me that buying a house isn't just about the price and location, need to know its history too, or you might end up with a haunted home like I did.
Last year, my wife and I bought a second-hand house in New York. We had been looking for a bigger place because we were expecting our first child. After months of searching, we finally found a house that was reasonably priced and in a good location. Though the house was a bit old, we felt that added to its charm. On moving day, we were both very excited. The new house had a unique sense of history, as if every brick was telling a story of the past. We set up our furniture and repainted the walls, making the whole space feel refreshed. That night, my wife and I slept in our new home for the first time, and everything seemed perfect. However, it wasn't long before I started having nightmares. Every night shortly after falling asleep, I would dream of a strange man standing by the bed, staring at me with a grim expression. His face was blurry, but the feeling of dread was incredibly real. I woke up drenched in sweat and couldn't fall back asleep for a long time. At first, I thought it was the stress of moving, leading to poor sleep quality, but the nightmares persisted for weeks, and I gradually became uneasy. One morning, I talked to my wife about it. She mentioned that she had also been sleeping poorly but hadn't had any nightmares. We decided not to make a big deal out of it, thinking it was just a matter of adjusting to the new place. However, things didn't improve. Instead, they got worse. The nightly nightmares left me physically and mentally exhausted, making it hard to focus at work during the day. One night, the nightmare hit me again. I dreamed of walking down a dark corridor lined with old, worn-out paintings. The air was filled with a decaying smell. Suddenly, a voice called out to me. I turned around to see the blurry man standing at the end of the corridor, slowly walking towards me. Waking up in a panic, I decided to investigate the history of the house. I began researching and discovered that the previous owners were an elderly couple. The husband had died a few years ago, and the wife had moved in with their children. The house had been on the market for 6 months without any buyers. The neighbors spoke highly of the couple, saying they were well liked in the community. This information didn't explain my nightmares, but I felt there was something hidden. One day, while my wife and I were organizing the basement, we found an old box covered in thick dust, indicating it hadn't been touched for many years. Out of curiosity, we opened it and found some old photographs and letters. The photos showed family gatherings, and the letters contained everyday life details. Suddenly, one letter caught my attention. It appeared to be written by the previous owner's husband before he died, mentioning that he often had nightmares about a strange man wandering the house, seemingly searching for something. The letter ended with him expressing his suspicion that there was some evil force in the house. A chill ran down my spine. Could my nightmares be the same as his? That night, I decided to stay in the basement to see if I could find more clues. In the middle of the night, I dreamt of the man again. This time, he spoke clearly, saying, "Leave this place." Waking up in terror, I immediately went to the basement. Near the box, I noticed a loose floorboard. Lifting it, I found a small box underneath. Inside the box was an old ring and a yellowed photograph. The person in the photograph was the man from my dreams. According to the letters, this man seemed to be the house's original owner, who had mysteriously disappeared, and his body was never found. The ring and photo seemed to be cursed items, tormenting everyone who lived there. I decided to tell my wife about this, and we sought help from a local historian and a medium. The historian confirmed that the man was indeed the house's first owner. He had disappeared after a family dispute, and the police suspected foul play, but the case was never solved. The medium, after hearing our story, suggested a cleansing ritual to try to lift the curse from the house. Following the medium's advice, we performed a cleansing ritual in the house. She used some herbs and holy water, chanting words I didn't understand. After the ritual, the medium told us that the negative energy had dissipated and the troubled spirit should now be at peace. Strangely enough, my nightmares ceased after the ritual. The atmosphere in the house became light and cheerful, and we could finally enjoy our new home.
After moving into the new house, my family and I experienced a terrifying incident during the first week, leaving us feeling fearful and unsettled about our surroundings. It was a sunny weekend morning when we had just moved into the suburban house. The first few days seemed to progress smoothly as we busied ourselves with arranging rooms and setting up furniture, enjoying the fresh ambience of our new abode. However, everything took a sudden turn one late night. That evening, as I lay in bed, on the verge of drifting off to sleep, I was abruptly awakened by a jarring noise. I groggily opened my eyes, trying to locate the source of the disturbance, and heard shuffling noises near the bedroom door, as if someone was attempting to unlock it. My heart leapt into my throat, and I lay frozen, holding my breath, on the bed. With each turn of the doorknob, the noise grew louder, inching closer to where I lay. A chilling sense of dread washed over me as I watched the door creak open, revealing a tall figure silhouetted in the doorway. His face was shrouded in darkness, making it impossible to discern any features. He stepped into the room, scanning his surroundings as if searching for something. Trembling with fear, I forced myself to remain silent, fearing the worst. Suddenly, his gaze seemed to fixate in my direction, and I felt as though he had spotted me. I shut my eyes tightly, praying silently that he wouldn't discover my presence. After what felt like an eternity, I cautiously opened my eyes again, only to find the room once more enveloped in silence. The intruder had vanished. I breathed a sigh of relief but couldn't shake the lingering sense of unease. I reached for my phone and immediately dialed the emergency number, reporting the terrifying ordeal to the authorities. The police arrived swiftly and conducted a thorough search of the premises, but found no traces of the intruder. They suggested that it might have been a burglary attempt, with the perpetrator trying to gain entry while we were asleep. This explanation only heightened my fear and shock, realizing that my family and I had narrowly escaped becoming victims of a crime. From that night onward, I found myself unable to sleep soundly in that house, even during daylight hours, plagued by an inexplicable sense of dread and fearing the intruder's return. After consulting with my family, we decided to relocate as soon as possible in search of a safer living environment. The experience left me acutely aware of the hidden dangers that lurk in everyday life and reinforced the importance of remaining vigilant to protect oneself and loved ones. Though I cannot erase the memory of that terrifying night, I believe it has made me stronger and more cautious in facing the uncertainties of the world.